All right, it is Thursday night, and every Thursday night we check in with our roving traveling reporter, Bill Cleveland. The website is Bill on the Road. Bill, good evening. Welcome to America at Night.
Thanks, McGraw. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. Don't be Happy New Yearing me next week. It'll be way too late into the year to be doing that, but you can do it this week. All right. So when last we left you, you were soaked and waterlogged in Pasadena. You got in your car, and where'd you go?
I said I got to dry out. I'm driving to the desert, and that's where you find me tonight in beautiful Palm Springs, California.
How far is Palm Springs from Pasadena?
Oh gosh, I would say an hour and a half, maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
In most traffic situations, anytime you're in California, I don't know if you have a lot of experience in California. I used to live out here. I visit pretty frequently, and it's interesting when you use your GPS, which I tend to do when I go places out here. There's one thing that always happens, and I'm always reminded of it as soon as I start using the GPS. There's that little thing in the bottom left-hand corner where it tells you, you'll be there in 25 minutes, you'll be there in 30 minutes. That number never goes down. It's always going up. So if you think it's you're like, oh, all right, 20 minutes, and then you look over, and you're like, wait a minute, it's just 25 minutes now. It never goes down, but it is what it is.
That was the clock in high school English class. It never went. It always went the wrong way.
That's right.
All right. So Palm Springs, right? That's the playground for the rich and famous, is it not?
Well, back in the day, yeah, you had a lot of famous people who would come up here, to spend winters. In fact, next week, I'm going to go check out. They have an area called, I think it's the Movie Colony neighborhood. I may be botching that a bit, but it's where a lot of famous folks had houses. Bob Hope had a house out here. Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe rented some properties. So there were people from Hollywood that would come out and spend, maybe the winter months out here.
All right, good. So is it all? I don't know much about Palm Springs. I've never been there, but from the movies and the TV shows, it looks like it's all mid-century modern, and there's not a rapper on the street and not a cigarette butt on the curb.
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty great. But to be honest, the best part of Palm Springs, in my opinion, aside from, I guess, the great weather this time of year, it's the mountain views. I mean, I've been here. I don't know. I've stayed in Palm Springs maybe 5-6 times, and I'm never tired of being in the car and just seeing the beautiful mountains everywhere you look. And yeah, it's gorgeous. People are pretty friendly. There's a lot to do, and again, the weather's great.
Yeah. All right, good. So you've visited. What have you visited? What can you tell us? What can we see while we're in Palm Springs?
Well, I'll tell you the one thing, and locals may not love this, because I don't know that a lot of locals love this particular thing, but if you are a tourist and a traveler, you're going to love it. And it's the Forever Maryland statue. So, McGraw, there is this gigantic Marilyn Monroe statue downtown. It's 26 feet tall. Okay, it's designed by a guy. I think his name was Seward Johnson. It was a representation from the movie. What was the movie? The 7-Year Itch, back in the 1950s. And everybody knows the pose that she's in with the dress flying up and everything. And the statues, it's bounced around a handful of different locations, but it's back here in Palm Springs. And I will tell you, it's pretty funny because, you look up and, oh, yeah, there's Marilyn's underoos, you see, and the last time that I was here, and because I travel solo and I bring a little tripod with me to take photos everywhere that I go, because I don't have a photographer, right? And so the last time that I was here, I started setting up the tripod, and there's this group of ladies. If I had to guess, they were in their mid-60s, and one of the gals says, oh, would you just like me to take a photo of you? And I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be great. So I go up, and I stand there underneath Marilyn Monroe, and again, the dress is going up, and just, you know the view. And these women were in their mid-60s. They were like cat-calling and yell, well, strike a pose. Well, look up at her underwear. And I'm just like, what planet am I living on here? And it was explained to me later that a lot of especially older women, when they get out to Palm Springs, even if they are these, lovely, down to earth, Midwest calm people, boy, they just erupt when they get to Palm Springs, and it's like another personality. But you got to go to Maryland, you got to get a photo.
So what happens in Palm Springs stays in Palm Springs, in other words.
Yes, sir. You got it.
All right. Well, was Marilyn known for living in Palm Springs? Why is this 27-foot statue there of her?
Well, so she didn't. I guess you could say she lived here periodically. She would rent properties from time to time, and she would visit with Joe DiMaggio, I guess, in the early 60s or late 50s, whenever that was. But yeah, I don't know the real reason that she's here, but I'm glad she is. It's a great, in my opinion. Again, some of the locals, I don't know if they all love it. There was some big controversy a few years ago because you had the statue was right in front of the Palm Springs Art Museum, and they were like, we don't want people walking out of the art museum and seeing the backside of Marilyn Monroe's, whatever. But I love it. I'm glad it's here.
All right, good. So when you get to Palm Springs, check out the Marilyn Monroe statue. What else is there to do?
A lot of stuff, McGraw. So I think maybe the most popular tourist attraction is the Palm Springs Aerial Tramway. And this is really neat, especially this time of the year or maybe in early spring. So, Palm Springs, obviously, we're out here in the desert and it can be pretty warm. Like next week, we're going to have temperatures, I think, like low 80s. Well, you take this tram, it's about a mile and a half up. It spins in a circle as you're going up. So it's the only or the world's largest rotating tram car, and it takes you up into the mountains, into San Jacinto State Park. And the thing is, when you get up there, especially this time of the year, there's snow generally up in the mountains. So you can be up in your winter coat, right, and with gloves on and everything, getting ready to go hike in the snow, and you look down knowing 2 miles down, the mountain, it's 80 degrees and people are in the pool. It is really bizarre, but it's really neat. Hiking trails. We've got some restaurants up there, and again, it's just a cool experience.
I love a good tram ride. I'm up for a good tram ride. How long does it take from the bottom to the top?
I think it's about 10 minutes. And actually, the big local brouhaha here last week was the tram actually got stuck. It got stopped and people got stranded up at the top of the mountain, which they say happens, maybe once a year periodically, but not a ton, but no, it's really cool.
Tell me about the Palm Springs Air Museum. What's there?
Yeah, so I mentioned a little while ago that one of the cool things about Palm Springs is these mountain views, and so right next to the Palm Springs airport, they have the Palm Springs Air Museum, and so I went there yesterday. Really cool. Met with a lot of nice volunteers, a lot of military veterans that work there. Met a guy who was 92 years old. I swear to God, it looked like he was 60. Like, these guys are out here having a great time, and they're walking around and showing you these vintage aircrafts, military aircrafts, planes, and things like that. But what's really neat is while you're looking at these vintage airplanes, like every 5 minutes or so, a plane's taken off at the airport, and it's like flying right over your head. And you see the beautiful mountain views and the planes zipping up in the air and landing. I mean, I loved it. They also have flight simulators. And it's just a really neat air museum. And again, talking with the veterans and some of these volunteers who just, clearly love what they do and love the aircrafts and sharing the history, especially like World War II history. If you are a flight enthusiast or you like history, you'd have to go there.
All right. Tell me I want to know about some of the buildings. Give me a sense of the buildings, the mid-century modern buildings, the sort of 50s retro style pool hotels. Give me a little flavor. Give me a little color.
Yeah, so I'm particularly interested in this topic because for 17 years I lived in St. Louis County in a mid-century modern home. There were little pockets of St. Louis County that had these mid-century modern homes, and I lived in one, so I love them. And all over Palm Springs, you see these. They're cool. They were built in the 50s, late 50s, I suppose, early 50s, and they got the oranges oranges and greens, and they're not all painted the same way or anything like that. But the architecture is really cool. There's an art museum here, the Palm Springs Art Museum. Right next door is something that just went up last year, and it was the first all metal building ever built in the world. It was built in the 1930s, and I was actually driving through downtown and I spotted this thing and I thought, what in the world is this? And so I pulled off the road and pulled in this little parking lot and learned that it was this building that had been sitting, I guess, in the Palm Springs our art museum's parking lot for like a decade, waiting to be put back together. And it's really neat. It was, like I said, built in the 1930s, and they were meant to be mass produced. But then World War II came along, and obviously metal was in short supply, or I guess no supply at all, since all the metal went to the war effort. But it's cool to look at this building, and it's very retro. The neat thing is, like, they have a garage on the bottom, okay, and you can drive in and then drive out the other side on another garage door, which I thought, how cool would that be to have at your house? You got the garage, you drive in, you don't have to back up, you keep on driving out the other side. And but it's all metal. I don't know how it would do in a thunderstorm. I'm not sure I'd want to be in there. But pretty cool. And again, the architecture. If you love that early mid-century feel, this place has got these cool buildings and homes all over the place.
Well, that Palm Springs and Scottsdale and Phoenix, they kind of grew up in the mid-century because that's when air conditioning started to come in, right? People weren't moving to the desert when there wasn't air conditioning, but once air conditioning was invented, then they started coming up, right? So it makes sense that there's a mid-century tinge to all of the architecture and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And still to this day, even with the air conditioning, you do have a lot of people who will come out here for the winter months. And, by the time April, early May, they're gone. They've gone back to wherever it is that they live full time. You do have people, obviously, that live here all year long. I remember last year or the year before, I flew out here for a couple of days just to hang out. And I was talking to the Uber driver, and it was a warm day, but it wasn't that warm. I just asked the guy, I was like, so at what point do you just go, I ain't going outside? And his cutoff was 130 degrees. That's what he told me. He said at 1:30, I ain't going out. And I was like, wait, you're going out well, he's got to make a living, obviously. Yeah. And if that was his cutoff. And the one thing they'll all tell you, McGraw, and you've heard it, it's a dry heat.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So, what are you going to do?
It's a dry heat. 135 degrees, but it's a dry heat. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. What's this zoo you were talking about?
Yeah, I went to this really cool zoo, and as you know, you and I are both from the St. Louis, Missouri area, and we have, I believe, if not the best zoo in the country, certainly one of the best. So, I'm kind of picky when I go to a zoo, but they have a really neat thing called the Living Desert Zoo and Gardens. It's actually in Palm Desert, which is 25 minutes away from Palm Springs. And what makes it pretty cool is it's the scenery. You kind of feel like you're out on kind of an African safari, if you will. So, like, for example, you're looking at giraffes out here, but instead of like a normal zoo, like you've got the desert landscape, you've got the mountains in the background, and it makes for some really cool scenery. Lots of hiking trails. And, just a really neat zoo. And, cool. I got some great photos today of some of the animals. Yeah.
Are you going to put those up on your website?
Yeah. For folks who want to follow along, Facebook is the best place to follow me because I post stuff in real time. And that's just, you look up Bill on the Road and you'll see my photos. Every day I'm posting 2 or 3 times a day, different things that I'm doing, little videos and stories and things like that.
So speaking of zoos, I lived in Long Island, New York, and in New York they say that the Bronx Zoo is the best zoo of all time. And then I was living in Omaha, Nebraska, and I don't know if you know this, but Omaha says their zoo is the best zoo ever. I know. And then you live in St. Louis, and St. Louis will tell you, no, their zoo is the best zoo. So no, every town thinks their zoo is the best zoo in America.
No, you're 100% right. I guess the only thing I'll say for St. Louis, and I was a taxpayer there for many years, is our zoo was free. So you get a little bonus for the price drop.
It's not really free. You pay for it with your taxes. That's another misnomer.
If you're a traveler.
If you're a visitor, yes. If it's a visitor, it's $17 for a car to park, but it's a free zoo. Next
or
week,
if you're too cheap like me, you park 4 miles away and walk to the zoo. Yeah,
there you go. Next week, you're going to do a whole segment on Frank in Palm Springs.
I'm trying, man. So Frank Sinatra had a home here. He had a handful of homes, I believe, in the desert, but there's one in particular that folks probably would recognize from photos and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try my best to get in. We'll see if I'm able to check it out. But yeah, there's a whole area around here. I mean, Elvis has got some history. We mentioned Marilyn Monroe. So yeah, I'm going to try and do a little digging and
why not spend another week in Palm Springs in the middle of January? You're a traveling fool. Why not? There's a movie out. There's a movie documentary. It's called Frank in Palm Springs. Might not a bad idea to check out that documentary. It's pretty cool. A lot of film of him hanging out in Palm Springs in the '60s and hanging out with JFK and all the Rat Pack and having a grand old time. Some pretty cool video. So there you go.
Cool,
check that out. All right, Bill on the road. Bill, safe travels, and we'll check in with you next Thursday. Thank you, sir.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Bill Cleveland, our traveling guru. He's been all over the place. This week, he's in Palm Springs, California. BillOnTheRoad.com. Also, check out his Facebook page, and he'll be with us next Thursday. America at Night. Back in a moment.
Live from coast to coast, this is America at Night with McGraw-Millhaven.